As an intern, the niece blew herself up with the boss in order to earn traffic. The boss's wife hit the house, and the niece didn't dare to come forward. She lied to me to the blame. I was abused to death by an angry woman. After my death, my brother's whole family took my huge compensation and not only lived a leisurely life, but also helped my niece realize her dream of being a star. I opened my eyes again and went back to the day when my niece urged me to go home to take the disaster. Auntie, come here quickly. If you don't come, how can I be a big star? 1. I'm on the 12th floor. Does anyone want to get off the elevator? The reminder of the beautiful woman at the elevator entrance made me realize that I was reborn, the day when my niece cheated me to go home to take the disaster. At this moment, the fierce boss is blocking the elevator entrance with someone. The shame of being torn my clothes in my last life is still vivid in my mind, and the fear of death makes me tremble. I strangled my arm heavily to keep myself calm. Now that I have been reborn, it is impossible for me to die for others again. I want to return the pain of my previous life to the person it should bear. As the elevator door slowly closed, his niece Huyen also called in. When I arrived on the 13th floor, I followed the flow of people down the elevator to the stairway, raised the corners of my lips and connected the phone. As soon as it was connected, the niece's angry voice came from the receiver. Auntie, why haven't you arrived yet? The house is surrounded by many people. They are waiting for your explanation. I sneered in my heart. Why should I explain her mistake? In my last life I didn't receive this phone call, because at this time I was surrounded by a group of people and suffering a painful experience. And the originator of all this is my niece Huyen. Huyen, who had just graduated from college, was introduced to her company for internship, but she was unwilling to start from the bottom, and took the opportunity to seduce her boss on a business trip. In order to realize her dream of becoming a star, she exposed her experience with her boss to earn attention on the internet. The boss's wife came to the door directly after knowing the truth. I was called home in a hurry. As soon as I stepped into the door, I was pulled by a big hand. Brothers, it's the first time I've seen such a shameless bitch. The boss's wife commanded a group of fierce strong men to punch and kick me. 2. I tried my best to explain that I didn't seduce the boss at all. But the niece who stood at the door and watched secretly shouted, "Let go of my aunt, she will never dare to seduce the boss again." The boss, who was completely angered, came forward to gag me, and a group of men began to tear my clothes. Shamed and angry, I subconsciously asked my sister-in-law and niece for help, but they didn't mean to help me at all. Watched me being humiliated to death. On the verge of death, my eyes stared at the sister-in-law, mother and daughter who sneered at the door. There was no trace of sadness in their eyes, but the joy of the rest of their lives after the robbery. After my death, my brother's family did not demand severe punishment for the murderer, but demanded huge compensation. They changed to a big house and lived a rich life with my compensation. Huyen also had a face dressing and became a big star because of the money. At this time, Huyen shouted anxiously when he saw that I hadn't responded for a long time on the other end of the phone. "Auntie, go home quickly. If you don't come, how can I be a big star in this life?" I exclaimed. "What did you say?" Huyen, who was in a panic, began to sob. "Auntie, come back quickly. There are a lot of people at home. I'm scared." I sneered in my heart. It turned out that she was also reborn, and he is still dreaming of being a star. Unexpectedly, I'm here to send their whole family to hell. Thinking of this, it's hard for me to say. There is still something to do in the company. I can't go back for the time being. If there is anything, please explain it to others. I'm not afraid of the shadow. We didn't do anything wrong, and they didn't dare to mess around. Huyen panicked. "Auntie, you must come back. If you don't come back, Before she finished speaking, I hurriedly answered, "I'm very busy now. I'll hang up first." The moment the phone was hung up, my heart was extremely relaxed. I wanted to see if there was no huge amount of compensation in this life. How could she be a big star? 3. Just a few minutes later, the word sister-in-law on the screen of the mobile phone jumped eagerly. I can't forget that in my previous life she was free with the money I exchanged for my life. He also said everywhere that I was killed alive because of my unscrewful life. I tied the broken hair in front of me and slid my mobile phone calmly. My sister-in-law's unhappy voice came from the receiver. "Huasiyu, how dare you refuse Yen and to ask you to go home? Do I buy vegetables and cook for the dog to eat? I can't go back now. You can go back and have a look right now. Are you still a member of your family? The house is about to be demolished. What are you still doing in the company? Go home right now." I sneered in my heart. "It's such a time and you're still ordering me. It's really shameless." Then he suppressed the anger in his heart and said with a smile, "Sister-in-law, don't be angry. I'll go back soon. Now it's a society under the rule of law. These people dare not do anything. Don't worry. That's good. I also don't think they can do anything to us. Yin is still young, and there are some things that can't be said clearly. Sister-in-law, go back and have a look first. Don't let them take away your precious jewelry. I'll be back as soon as I finish my work. Hear yourself, the precious jewelry may fly away." My sister-in-law nervously said, Yes, 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 I have to go back and have a look first. The gold necklace I bought a few days ago is still in the cabinet. Hanging up the phone, I sneered. Dear sister-in-law, it was your daughter who asked you to die. After a while, you will know that there is something more terrible waiting for you than the loss of a gold necklace. I stood quietly in the corridor and listened to the movement. Sure enough, in less than 5 minutes, there were screams and cries in the house. Listening carefully, in addition to the sister-in-law's panicked shout, Huiyan's voice was also mixed in. I suddenly felt very happy. It's better to eliminate Huiyan together. People like her who don't even care about the life of her biological mother in order to become a star are also rubbish to live for. In fact, when I knew that Huiyan's live broadcast broke the black material with the boss, I advised them that Yinyan was still young and should work hard step by step and give up unrealistic illusions. But my sister-in-law and niece didn't listen at all. They scolded me for being an old girl who couldn't marry, saying that I was a psychopath and couldn't see my niece living better than me. And my sister-in-law also called my brother. As expected, my brother called and scolded me. Huisiyu, your niece is so beautiful. Why do you want to be a star? As your own aunt, you not only don't support it but also splash cold water. No one should want you as a pervert. Huiyan also lay in her sister-in-law's arms and cried out of breath. Mom blames you for making me so beautiful, but you married a father who has no money and no ability. Didn't you say that your aunt would sell the house to support me as a big star? She didn't even want to say a word of encouragement to me. How could she sell the house to help me? I completely understood the family's face and made up my mind to stop talking about their business. The phone rang again, and as soon as it was connected, the sister-in-law's cry came out. Please let me go. My daughter really didn't seduce your husband. It's my sister-in-law. She's an old girl. She seduced your husband shamelessly. I'll call her back now. The other end of the phone instantly became quiet. My sister-in-law's angry scolding came. Huisiyu, where did you go? Why didn't you come back? The house is in a mess, and your niece and I are also surrounded by people. You bitch, come back quickly. I blocked him back without showing any weakness. You are so anxious to ask me to go back, isn't it for me to bear the blame? But the boss's wife is not brainless. I'm an old girl you look down on. How can I seduce my husband? If you let your niece give in and apologize, she will definitely let you go. There was another scream on the other end of the phone. Let go of me, let go of my mother. It's really Boss Zhang seduced by my aunt. Don't tear my daughter's clothes. 5. I stared at the forcibly hung-up mobile phone, and suddenly a burst of unknown fire broke out in my heart. Don't your mother and daughter like to take off their clothes in the live broadcast room? Let you take off your clothes today. I just don't know how my brother will treat his sister-in-law, who is seen up by different men. And how can the niece, who takes off her clothes in front of so many people, realize her dream of being a star? I poked my head out to observe the situation in the room, but I saw my niece rushing out untidy clothes and shouting as she ran. Mom, hold on a little longer. I'll call someone first. Huiyan is really a white-eyed wolf. When I appeared at the door of the house leisurely, this place had changed a lot. In the originally clean and tidy house, the furniture fell all over the ground, and there were bloodstains on the ground. I squeezed into the crowd and saw my sister-in-law surrounded by several big men. The clothes on his body have been torn clean, and he is lying naked on the ground. The boss beside her is still holding a knife to cross her face. It's the fault of not raising the godfather. You should suffer for giving birth to such a shameless daughter. Doesn't she like to take off her clothes in front of men? You also took it off. Let's all have a look. The sister-in-law still wanted to argue, but was viciously stepped on the lap by the man behind her. I heard the clicking sound of broken bones and the howling of my sister-in-law killing pigs. She struggled painfully and looked around. Sure enough, he saw me in the crowd soon. Huisiyu, you bitch, why are you here? Come and save me, come and save me. At this moment, her eyes were full of anger, and her mouth was also abusive to me. Just like they did to me in my previous life, I was like an outsider watching the excitement, looking at everything in front of me calmly. The sister-in-law has been beaten to death, and her face has been scratched with a sharp knife. She closed her eyes tightly and moaned in pain, waiting for death to come. At this time, the police finally arrived. It was a few minutes earlier than the previous life. Of course, it's all my credit. 6. I counted the time to call the police to save my sister-in-law. I don't want to take advantage of her and let her die so easily. I want her to see her lose what she values little by little. And if she dies, Huiyan will get a large amount of compensation and continue to be her big star. In the new life, how can I make her wish come true? Sure enough, the doctor told me after my sister-in-law was sent to the hospital. Although the patient survived, her limbs were broken, and she may spend the rest of her life in a wheelchair. My mother can't become disabled. She must be dead. Huiyan, who was excited, suddenly rushed in. She rushed to me with scarlet eyes. It's all your fault. You're the bitch. Why didn't you come here early? It's you. I grabbed her hair with my backhand and slapped her loudly while questioning. You didn't learn well at a young age and cheated on your husband. Do you blame me? You exposed your adultery on the internet regardless of integrity. Blame me. You handed over your mother to the bad guys for your unrealistic dream. And you also blame me? Huyen was completely blinded by me. She covered her face with her hands and looked at me in horror. Why is it different? Why is it different from the previous life? Obviously. Halfway through her words, she suddenly stopped talking, came forward and grabbed my shoulder and shook it vigorously. Do you think you know anything? Speak quickly. I looked at her with a sneer. I know everything you know. She was completely crazy, pounced on me with a twisted face and strangled my neck fiercely. Why do you call the police? You are afraid of death and want to prevent my mother from dying. You just don't want me to become a big star, do you? Now she has become a waste face and a ruined face. What's the point of living? I saw my sister-in-law who had just woken up fainted again when she heard Huyan's words. I also kicked her on the stomach without mercy and kicked her directly to the wall. 7. She thought she could pinch me with her slender arms and legs, dreaming. What's the matter? Pussy you, how can you bully Yanyan? The brother, who had been standing at the door for a long time and watching the excitement, also ran in angrily at this time. He came forward to help Huyen up and began to scold me. You are really a white-eyed wolf. I'm only on a business trip for a few days. You can bully your sister-in-law with outsiders, and also bully my precious daughter. Sure enough, your sister-in-law is right. You are a pervert who can't get married. A tingling flashed in my heart. My former brother was also very good to me. Since my parents passed away, he has become my closest person. But in order to occupy my house, my sister-in-law always speaks ill of me in front of my brother. After a long time, he began to be cold to me and always speak bad words to me. However, I think that in my previous life, he was the master and let the murderer who mutilated me go unpunished, but their whole family was at ease with the compensation money. Maybe in my brother's heart, I have already been an outsider. I put away the sadness in my heart and rubbed away the last desire for family affection in my heart. I looked firmly at my brother. Brother, are you blind or deaf? It was your daughter who attacked me first. It was also her cause that made my sister-in-law become disabled by being bullied. When my brother heard that his sister-in-law was disabled, he didn't care about the theory with me and rushed forward to check her sister-in-law's injury. When he saw the faintly exposed wounds on his sister-in-law's whole body and face wrapped in dumplings, his face changed, and the disgust in his eyes was undisguised. At this moment, the boss of the disabled sister-in-law came into the ward. 8. My niece trembled with fear and hid behind my brother. It's Boss Zhang who seduced her. You should beat her to death. Really, I can testify that Boss Zhang, who was seduced by her, also posted the story on the internet. I looked over with sharp eyes, and Huyen shrank her head in again. The boss's calm face instantly flashed with anger. A row of bodyguards behind her also came forward to surround me. Huyen boldly came out from behind her brother. My aunt loved her husband so much that she seduced him. And my aunt has a star dream. In order to realize her dream, she has no choice but to start live online. You have to forgive her. With that, Huyen also smiled provocatively at me. My brother rushed forward regardless and said to me with two mouths beating and cursing. How can you be so shameless? So many good young men don't want to seduce a married husband. Our old Hua family will make you lose face. The bodyguard behind me stepped on my lap. The sudden strength made me kneel up straight in front of everyone. My sister-in-law also woke up from the shock. Hua see you stinky bitch, let you go home early to clean up the mess. You hid far away which made me what I am now. I want your life. My sister-in-law rolled and crawled towards me. I got up quickly and kicked her to the ground. The sister-in-law cried and shouted. At this time, a group of people were surrounded by the door of the ward. My sister-in-law threw her into my brother's arms sadly. Why is my life so miserable? When I met such a shameless sister-in-law, I was beaten and couldn't stand up. I sneered in my heart. What a loving family. They are determined to make me bear the blame. 3 steps and 2 steps to the boss's wife. In the midst of everyone's abuse, he took out an envelope from the bag and handed it over. 9. The boss's wife opened the envelope doubtfully. When she saw what was inside, her face became darker and darker. The arrogant Huyen held his sister-in-law's arm and looked at me with a sneer. Suddenly, the things in the woman's hand flew to her. Countless photos were scattered in front of her. Of course, these are all carefully prepared for her. Looking at the photos scattered all on the ground, my brother's family's face is getting worse and worse. The sister-in-law fainted with an exclamation. Huyen was so scared that she trembled and hid behind my brother. A group of bodyguards surrounded them again. I know they definitely didn't come to the hospital to make trouble at this time. So he came forward decisively and looked firmly at the boss's wife. It's true that my niece made a mistake, but you also disabled my sister-in-law. What else do you want to do now? We don't want your compensation. But you are not allowed to trouble my niece in the future. No. Why don't we want to compensate? You have to lose money to my mother, a lot of money. The niece's roar aroused the boss's wife's dissatisfaction. She came forward and took out a delicate knife from her bag and picked up her niece's cheek. My niece's face turned pale with fear. Dad, save me, Aunt, I can't disfigure myself, I want to be a big star. The eldest brother pushed me on my back. If something happens to your niece, I won't let you live well. I stepped forward and pulled my niece aside and kicked her on the leg. Kneel down and apologize. My niece looked at me reluctantly. I pretended not to see her resentful eyes, pulled her ponytail and pressed it to the ground. Hit the ground again and again. Not long after, her forehead began to bleed. After the boss's face showed a look of satisfaction, I let go of my niece, who was already embarrassed. The most my brother's whole family will bring me the disaster and live my life again. And I will send their whole family to death. 39,103. After reaching an agreement, the boss only pay the medical fee. As for the compensation, there is no point. The niece's dream of wanting to get money to make herself popular was shattered again. 10. Huyen looked at me viciously. I will definitely become a big star, and no one can stop me. She left the ward without looking at her sister-in-law lying on the ground and moaning. My brother looked disgustedly at his sister-in-law, who couldn't walk and was disfigured, throwing her sleeves and leaving. Only my sister-in-law and I are left in the ward. She knelt in front of me. See you can't ignore your sister-in-law. Have you forgotten how good I was to you when my parents passed away? I remember the year when my parents left me in the same year. I feel like my sky is about to collapse. At that time, I had just started working and had not earned money to buy a house for myself. I have been living in my brother's house, and my sister-in-law really treated me well during that time. There is kindness in return and there is revenge. I settled my sister-in-law in bed and asked a doctor to help me treat the wound. After that, he left to go to work. One day, the hospital informed me that I couldn't contact my brother in Huyen, and asked me to pick up my sister-in-law from the hospital. When I saw my sister-in-law, she mysteriously pulled me to her side. See you, I knew you wouldn't ignore me. Yin is your niece and you won't care about her. I quietly waited for my sister-in-law to continue to speak. As a result, she continued to say, your house in the city center is worth millions. You bought it to help Yin become a big star, okay? My heart is cold that he smiled but didn't show his face. He pretended to be puzzled and asked, sister-in-law, how do you know that Yin will become a big star in the future? Of course Yin told me personally. Yin said that she dreamed that she would become a big star in the future. But now she needs a lot of money to support her. Yin has become a big star and will definitely respect us. Now you have bought a house to support her, and she will definitely buy you a villa in the future. I was amused by my sister-in-law's words. I can't expect her filial piety to a person who even calculates his own mother. So he said to his sister-in-law with a smile, if you ask your niece to come to the hospital to take good care of you, I believe that she is a good child. The sister-in-law was speechless for a moment, because she hadn't seen her good daughter for a long time. 11. I met Huyen again on a star selection program. My sister-in-law excitedly told me that Huyen was going to become a big star, and asked me to turn on the TV to cheer for her. I wondered how Huyen became a star when she saw Huyen, who was embarrassed. Among the contestants, Huyen's appearance is meteor, and he has no talent to get his hands on. Even if her clothes look valuable, they can't resist her fate of being eliminated as the last one. As soon as the TV was turned off, Huyen's phone called in. Wasiu blames you. It was you who refused the boss's compensation for my mother, and made me have no money to become a big star. I won't let you live well if you wait. I smiled disdainfully. I'm waiting for you. The day after Huyen called, I was sent to a business trip by the company. In a completely strange city, I saw my dear brother's family. That's a hot search video. In the video, my sister-in-law complained with a snot and tears that I left her paralyzed in bed for a trip. At the end of the video, there is also a photo of him paralyzed in bed and struggling to eat and me walking on the beach. The comments below are all condemnations of me. The video was switched to another shot, and my brother also appeared in everyone's vision. My own brother also began to spare no effort to slander me. My sister has been greedy and selfish since she was a child. She doesn't get married when she is not young. Many young and promising young men don't want to be juniors. They are beaten by their original match and let their sister-in-law stand in the way. Now her sister-in-law has been disabled, but she goes on a trip. It's really not a person. My brother said and put his arms around his sister-in-law's shoulder. It's my sister's fault and made you suffer. In the future, Yin and I will take good care of you and never leave you. My brother is affectionate and responsible for the image of a good husband, which has been unanimously praised by netizens. 12. It's rare to see such a good man nowadays. It's also unfortunate for the family to meet such a shameless sister. Fortunately, this man is responsible. Huyen, who was well dressed, also jumped into his sister-in-law's arms and cried bitterly. Mom, don't worry, I will definitely not be that kind of careless and selfish person like my aunt. I will take good care of you and Dad. With the testimony of my brother and Huyen, netizens are dissatisfied with me, and show great sympathy for my brother's family. Huyen's pure and filial image is popular all over the internet. Some advertising companies even asked her to endorse her, but I became the target of online violence. The boss called and fired me on this dime. He said indignantly that the company would not want a white-eyed wolf like me. Afterwards, Huyen also left me a message. See you, no matter how many generations I live, you are the stepping stone on my road to success. Now you have transferred the house to me and knelt down to apologize to our family. I may be very compassionate and let my parents forgive you online. I raised the corners of my lips. Until now she is still thinking about my house. Isn't she afraid that I will expose all her scandals? With doubts, I opened her previous live broadcast account and found that all the accounts had been cancelled. And I can't even find a piece of information on the internet about her live broadcast and the boss's black material at that time. It seems that she has done enough this time. But how could I be unprepared? Since she wants to be famous, I'll give her some extra material. I contacted an internet tycoon with tens of millions of fans, claiming that there was a black material of pure little white flowers. The boss immediately agreed that they liked this pure little white flower the most, which turned out to be the reversal of the poisonous rose. Before I handed over my retained evidence, another voice appeared on the internet. A woman with a straight belly claims to be my brother's confidant. She said that she and her brother really loved each other, and now she has my brother's children. I thought it was an internet celebrity's prank to gain attention in order to gain traffic. Unexpectedly, that woman posted an intimate photo with my brother on the internet. Huyen's family is on the hot search again. The name of the video is Uncle Infatuated. It turns out that the Golden House has been hiding for a long time. The cover of the video is a picture of my brother lying naked and lying in bed with a woman and him kneeling in front of my sister-in-law to make a deep confession. Huyen, who was pushed to the forefront, posted a video with his mother again. In the video, the sister-in-law hysterically accused my brother of not being a thing, and claimed to make our brothers and sisters pay the price. She even said that Xiao San was the one I introduced to my brother. Huyen was wearing a white dress and cried so. While comforting her sister-in-law, she took out a photo of me and Xiao San standing together and showed it. However, anyone with clear eyes can see that the photo is synthesized by technology. However, the majority of netizens were fascinated by what happened to their sister-in-law and Huyen's performance. My brother and I have almost become synonymous with shamelessness on the internet. The majority of netizens can't wait to find me along the network cable and tear me apart. At the same time, I received another message from Huyen. See you, now kneel down and apologize. We can't forgive you. Only when you transfer the house to me and promise to serve my mother well in the future can we calm down, and we can also say good words for you on the internet. I sneered in my heart, and the fox's tail finally leaked out. Now that I see that my brother has been hooked away by Xiao San, he wants to blame me for taking care of his sister-in-law. Don't think about it. After I pushed the photos of Huyen seducing the boss, I kept to the internet tycoon. On the internet, Huyen's video of lying naked in bed rushed to the headlines. And the video of her own affair with her boss was also posted on the internet. She also tasted the taste of online violence. After the collapse of the pure and filial person, Huyen simply didn't pretend and began to bite my brother and Xiao San on the internet. 14. Everyone finally knew that they had been deceived by Huyen, and for a moment she became the target of the public. After I was fired by my boss, I returned home. One day a strange phone call came in. The phone was connected and a woman's voice came. She said that she was my future sister-in-law. It took me a long time to understand that it was my brother's little brother who raised outside called me. The woman told me that Huyen found her and asked her to identify her as my brother whom I wanted her to seduce, and promised to agree to her marriage to my brother afterwards. I sneered in my heart that Huyen was really naive and wanted to use an outsider to get rid of me. So, I smiled and said to the woman that Huyen asked her to falsely accuse me in order to occupy my property. And I don't want to get married. I must leave the house to my nephew or niece. If she can really give birth to a son for my brother, she will leave my property to my brother's son in the future. The woman was moved. She didn't expect that she would not only not oppose her and my brother, but also leave her house to her children. She said excitedly, asking me to wait for her good news. Just when I was about to forget that my brother still had a junior. But she invited me to watch the play. When I arrived at the agreed place, I heard my sister-in-law roaring like thunder. Lao Hua, you are not a human. We have been married for so many years. Yinan has grown up, and you still hook up with this shameless vixen. My brother, who was standing opposite, glanced at him disdainfully and said, You don't even take a picture of urine. What the hell do you look like now? And don't you know how many men have seen you? Do you think I'm willing? I'm here to protect our yin. Suddenly, Stan Xiaosan, who was next to my brother, knelt down in front of his sister-in-law. Sister, please complete me and Lao Hua. We are true love and I am pregnant with his child. I asked my friend in the hospital that it is a son. 15. My brother was so excited that he pushed away his sister-in-law in a wheelchair and helped up the woman kneeling on the ground. Xiaoqin, what you said is true. Are you really pregnant with a son? The woman nodded shyly and glanced at me standing in the distance. The sister-in-law shouted excitedly, No way, you vixen can't be pregnant with Lao Hua's son. You are a liar. With that, she pushed the wheelchair into the woman's stomach. My brother quickly kicked the wheelchair to the ground. The sister-in-law's mouth was bleeding, and her head was broken. The whole man was pressed under the wheelchair and struggled. She saw me and said, "See you, help me quickly. Save me." Seeing me standing motionless and watching the play, she began to curse. "You brothers and sisters don't have a good thing. Yin Yin is right. This bitch must have been introduced to Lao Hua by you." She picked up the glass of water scattered on the ground and smashed it at me. The woman beside my brother exclaimed and landed steadily on the wheelchair that had been pressing on her sister-in-law. My sister-in-law was overwhelmed by the sudden weight and vomited another mouthful of blood. But she was still unwilling to show weakness and pulled the woman's hair and was ready to beat her up. But before my sister-in-law's raised fist could fall, my brother came forward and kicked her on the head fiercely. Huyen suddenly rushed over and pushed my brother away. Looking at her dying sister-in-law, she got up and came to my brother's side. "Dad, you and this little three killed my mother." My brother's eyes flashed with panic, but his tone was still firm. "She deserves it. She wants to hurt your brother. How can I let her go? Where did my brother come from?" My brother didn't shy away. He pulled the woman beside him and said, "Auntie is pregnant with your brother." Huyen was laughed angrily. After a pause in her eyes, she said, "I can agree that you marry this shameless vixen. I can't call the police for you hurting my mother, but the house must be transferred to me." With that, she pointed at me. "Huasiu, you have a part in my mother's death. If you know her, give me your house too. I bought a house and I won't treat you unfairly when I become a big star." Before I could react, the woman beside my brother rushed over and grabbed Huyen's hair. 16. "Today I will teach you a lesson who is not big or small, for being shameless and looking down on me. If you have the ability, you can go to the police. Your mother fell down by herself. What evidence do you have to sue us?" I looked around and there was no camera. Huyen came forward and pulled the woman's hair. "You bitch, you want to occupy my property. You dream that all their money is to help me become a big star. Hurry up and get out of here with your bitch." The woman slapped Huyen in the face. "How dare you say that you want to become a big star? Why? If you can become a big star, there must be more big stars than the pigs in the pigsty." This sentence obviously touched Huyen's scales. She punched and kicked the woman regardless. My brother stood aside nervously and in a hurry. While pulling Huyen, "Yin, don't fight again. Be careful of the child in the ant's belly." While pulling the woman again. "Xiaoqin, stop it, stop it." Huyen was even more angry when she heard the child. She kicked him in the stomach. The woman on the opposite side lay on the ground with her belly in her arms. Huyen gloated and said, "What do you want to compete with me for your family property?" My brother was scared to see the woman covering her stomach. He came forward and kicked Huyen down, and then aimed at her stomach to output crazily. 17. Huyen endured the severe pain and rolled all over the ground, but my brother didn't mean to be soft at all. He stepped on it harder and harder. And Si Xiaoqin, who was bleeding in her lower body, also rushed to Huyen like crazy. "My child is gone. It's all your bad bitch. I'm going to kill you." She picked up the stone in her hand and rushed to Huyen. "Don't you want to be a big star? I'll let you do it." With that, she picked up the sharp stones on the ground and stroked hard on Huyen's face. "No, don't ruin my face. Dad, please don't let this woman ruin my face. I still want to be a big star." As if he didn't hear her bitter plea, my brother kept kicking her on the leg. "I asked you to call the police to arrest me. I asked you to attack me on the internet. Do you know what I've been suffering from recently? It's all your fault. You scolded me on the internet, pretended to be innocent and filial, and let netizens attack me. Now my job is gone and my son is gone. I'm going to beat you to death." After a while, Huyen's face had been scratched completely. She looked at me pleadingly. "Auntie, save me, Auntie, save me. You know that I will definitely become a big star." Soon the police surrounded us. My brother and Si Xiaoqin looked at me incredulously. "Did you call the police?" I nodded with a smile. It's natural to kill people. I ignored their knife-like eyes and was taken to the police station by the police. In the face of the police's inquiry, I directly handed over my mobile phone, because I have the whole process of the whole event in my mobile phone. Comrade policeman gave me a look of approval. Just now, my brother was sure that I had pushed my sister-in-law down and killed her. Facing the video, he had to admit that my brother and his junior were detained by the police. Both intentional homicide and intentional injury are valid. My brother went to prison. 18. Huyen has been crippled and his face is covered with scars. As her own aunt, the police asked me to take her back and take good care of her. Huyen still didn't give up and knelt in front of me. "Auntie, I want to be a big star, and you have to help me." I sneered in my heart. Of course I have to help her recognize the reality. I took Huyen to her room and told her to have a good rest. Less than a minute after leaving, she cried and shouted, "No way, it's definitely not me. Where did the ugly thing come from? Get out of here." There was the sound of the mirror breaking in the room. In the past, Huyen thought she was beautiful, and there were large and small mirrors everywhere in the room. It was these mirrors that made her recognize her current situation. She was completely crazy, and her hands kept sliding on her face. The scarred face was stained with blood again. Finally, I sent her to a mental hospital. On the way to the mental hospital, she also said, I'm a big star, you're going to take me to make a movie. The hospital staff glanced at her ferocious face and frowned, and I accompanied her. Yin is going to be a big star, go to a good place to be a big star. After sending Huyen away, I sold my house. After preparing to go to prison to see my brother, I left this sad place. On the way to prison, I received a notice from the police that my brother was dead. It turned out that my brother couldn't stand prison life. When he was about to escape from prison, he was killed by the police on the spot. I left the city carelessly. A few years later, the mental hospital informed me to collect Huyen's body. Huyen died, and when he was dying he said that he was a big star. After collecting Huyen's body, I took the taxi again. In front of me is a beautiful sunset. All the pain has passed. I also want to start my new life.